Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for giving us the chance to be here today. Greetings to all of you ministers, Commissioner, Chairman Sikorsky, ladies and gentlemen representatives. My name is Maes. I'm the President of SEJA, the European Council of Young Farmers. A lobbyist, some would say, but today I address you especially and mainly as a young farmer. Not only do I have the privilege of representing the young farmers today, but since the topic is so important for everyone living and working in rural areas, I also have the privilege of addressing you in the name of all rural youth. Many, if not most of you, have made their first experience in public speaking and public attendance within rural youth organizations, within young farmer organizations. The first experiences in partnerships on a national and even for some at the European level. The main concern when we're not talking about agriculture, but talking about rural communities, is that we are more and more feeling like becoming second-range citizens within our own country, within the same European Union. It is up to all of us as a community in Europe to make sure that people from rural areas have the same view of the future, the same opportunities as their urban colleagues, certainly for young people. The CAP has, amongst other policies, a big role to play there. And any policy can only be as effective as the budget which is supporting that policy. I would like to repeat our clear call for a budget supporting the CAP, which is aiming at the same ambition as the CAP itself. We are ambitious on all levels of sustainability, whether it is social, economic or environmental. We can only provide that certain future if the ambition and in the budget supporting the policy is as high. In concrete, on the topic of generational renewal, we think that the 2% ring fencing, which has been proposed by the Commission, is a very good first step, but not an end station. Certainly, the cuts in the second pillar are a concern for young farmers, and we demand that also in the second pillar, the very measures that enable us to grow and innovate in our farm are still funded at a level to let us do so. Furthermore, we think that the common agricultural policy, that first word is very central, common. We have to make sure that across Europe a policy is created that creates a level playing field for farmers both in legislation as well as in opportunities. However, there are differences between our regions, between our countries. It's important that member states, that you take the advantage of moments like these to share best practices. For example, here in Austria, we know that they are one of the countries amongst the higher percentages of young farmers, up to 10.5%, which is the double of the EU average. Make sure that you take the use of this moment of being here in Austria, learning from your colleagues how they do it, and if something is implementable in your own member state. Besides that, I also call upon you to provide a framework in which young farmers themselves get the opportunity to learn from their peers in other countries. I have the privilege to travel across Europe to learn and talk with my fellow colleague young farmers, make sure that every single young farmer or young farmer to be has that same opportunity. It can only advance us as a sector. Advancing us as a sector also means a decent income. And let a decent income be the very precondition of any farming activity. If we want young people to remain in rural areas, if we want young people to remain in the agricultural sector, we cannot do so without providing them of a decent income. I think the examples that we have seen on the magnificent farms yesterday were very clear, that it is the income which drives the farm, which on itself drives the community. The CAP's role in providing that income mainly means that we have to make a support system which focuses on active farmer. That is not just a hollow term. That means that active people and multifunctionality of farms absolutely is a part of that definition, but that those people who are professional in farming, that those people who take their life standards in their farm and who are depending on their farm, that those are the ones who need to be beneficial inside the CAP system. Besides that, as young farmers, we also ask for more risk management tools. I'm happy to come after my colleague from Kožeka mainly then, because for me as a young farmer, cooperation is one of those tools. Making sure that by partnering up with other farmers, I can manage risks that I cannot manage by myself. The environment, as a one but last, is of a major concern of us. We are the generation which will have to live with the planet that we have been born on, and it is a planet which is facing some issues. The agricultural sector in that has its role to play, has a responsibility to take, but is mainly and foremost a partner in that battle. We are a part of the solution when it comes to the environmental challenges. A last point, and it is one that I want to make very clear. When I'm talking about second-rate citizens, that also means access to 21st century technologies. Not only to be innovative on my farm, but also to have decent access to where life in the 21st century is playing its role. Broadband. Make sure that we are connected with one and each other, not only within the rural areas, but also within the whole globe. Let this be a very clear signal to each of you today that we expect, even demand, a very clear signal on our phones and laptops tomorrow. Without it, we cannot thrive. As conclusion, I think we all realize that the new generation of young people in rural areas, and certainly as young farmers, are crucial in the fight to preserve rural areas and remote communities. We are ready to take our part. We are willing to do our part, but we need to not only be, but also feel supported by you all in your own country, and certainly also at the European level. Thank you.